Yo, what's up, Montana? Welcome back. It's Nuanez now coming to you through the Grizzly Disposal studio. Grizzly Disposal, so great at giving back to our community. They donate money to Chicks and Chaps for cancer research. They donate to the Grizzly Scholarship Association. They donate to dozens of high school and youth sports teams from a sponsorship perspective. And they support us here at this fine local and statewide radio show. Grizzly Disposal, proud to present the studio sponsor here at ESPN MT. Grizzly Disposal, the only Bears that should be in your garbage. If you missed anything in the first hour of the show, fun first hour, Samuel Kemp talking all things inside the FCS. And we also gave you a chance to win some free Taglieri Deli. All of it on the podcast, which is probably presented in part by Holloway and Hulling. Holloway and Hulling, aces when it comes to personal injury, criminal defense, DUI, or family law. If you need legal help, visit montanalawyers.net. High school football on the horizon. Thursday night is when it all gets started. One of the big storylines in the state. First of all, Billings West, one of the favorites in Class AA. They've been the runner-up the last 2 years. They've been the runner-up 4 times in the last 8 years. Since the last time they won a state championship in 2018, they've made it to the state title game and lost 4 out of the last 7 seasons. So can they get over the top? They have a very talented roster led by Lane Humphrey, inside linebacker, who was our Class AA Defensive Player of the Year last year. Also, they have Jack Ryan and Walker Olson, a couple guys that are headed to Montana next fall. Lane Humphrey headed to Montana State, so 3 D1 guys on that defense. And the other big storyline for Billings West is that they are losing their head coach after the season. Rob Stanton, this will be his final season at the helm. He has taken the head track and field job at Dickinson State. So going to be interesting to see how Billings West transitions. Before we get to Pete Hamill, the Dowler twins, Taco and Caden Dowler, were at the Montana State press conference yesterday. Certainly plenty of talk about Utah Tech and the upcoming season, but I also wanted to get these guys' thoughts on just everything that's gone down there at Billings West and the influence that Rob Stanton has had on all these great Division I players. 6 Bobcats last year on the national championship team were from West. 5 of them were full-time headlining starters, including the Dowler twins and Paul Brott as well. Neil Daly, also one of those guys. Braden Zimmer, the left tackle, an outstanding player. So there's been a ton of talent that's come out of there. Rob Stanton's had a big hand in that. We'll start with Caden, and then we'll talk to Taco. Here is Caden Dowler on Rob Stanton.
You see it all around. You see it at this school. A lot of guys playing that played for Billings West, and that means they're doing something right there. And it was from him down. He was really the one who put everything in motion from the time we get there as freshmen. You know, we're lifting at 6 a.m. and we're lifting at 6 a.m. through the time we're seniors leaving for here. He does a really good job, kind of similar to here, empowering leaders to lead the team. And he's not necessarily a guy that's going to get up in front of everyone and rip on someone, but he really empowers his leadership and his captains on his teams to really be vocal. And I think that honestly helped me when I got here. So
appreciate Caden Dowler. Here is Taco Dowler on Rob Stanton.
Yeah, Coach Stanton's an amazing man, first off. Caden spoke to it really well, so it's hard to find a bunch of words, but trusted his leaders, like Caden said, and taught us a lot about the game of football. So we kind of came in with a head start, I felt like, at least with diagnosing coverages and stuff like that. He had a really good staff there at West High. And he does good at relationships, too. He just does the right things and played a big role in us getting here to Montana State, obviously, and having a lot of good Golden Bear football players on Montana State and impact players for Montana State. So the pipeline is there, and our coaches here continue to do a good job of recruiting Billings West because they continue to be good in high school, and that's because of him. So happy for him. He's awesome and one of the greatest men that I've ever been around. So I'm really happy for him.
Yo, what's up, Montana? Welcome back. It's Nuanez now coming to you through the Grizzly Disposal studio. Grizzly Disposal, so great at giving back to our community. They donate money to Chicks and Chaps for cancer research. They donate to the Grizzly Scholarship Association. They donate to dozens of high school and youth sports teams from a sponsorship perspective. And they support us here at this fine local and statewide radio show. Grizzly Disposal, proud to present the studio sponsor here at ESPN MT. Grizzly Disposal, the only Bears that should be in your garbage. If you missed anything in the first hour of the show, fun first hour, Samuel Kemp talking all things inside the FCS. And we also gave you a chance to win some free Taglieri Deli. All of it on the podcast, which is probably presented in part by Holloway and Hulling. Holloway and Hulling, aces when it comes to personal injury, criminal defense, DUI, or family law. If you need legal help, visit montanalawyers.net. High school football on the horizon. Thursday night is when it all gets started. One of the big storylines in the state. First of all, Billings West, one of the favorites in Class AA. They've been the runner-up the last 2 years. They've been the runner-up 4 times in the last 8 years. Since the last time they won a state championship in 2018, they've made it to the state title game and lost 4 out of the last 7 seasons. So can they get over the top? They have a very talented roster led by Lane Humphrey, inside linebacker, who was our Class AA Defensive Player of the Year last year. Also, they have Jack Ryan and Walker Olson, a couple guys that are headed to Montana next fall. Lane Humphrey headed to Montana State, so 3 D1 guys on that defense. And the other big storyline for Billings West is that they are losing their head coach after the season. Rob Stanton, this will be his final season at the helm. He has taken the head track and field job at Dickinson State. So going to be interesting to see how Billings West transitions. Before we get to Pete Hamill, the Dowler twins, Taco and Caden Dowler, were at the Montana State press conference yesterday. Certainly plenty of talk about Utah Tech and the upcoming season, but I also wanted to get these guys' thoughts on just everything that's gone down there at Billings West and the influence that Rob Stanton has had on all these great Division I players. 6 Bobcats last year on the national championship team were from West. 5 of them were full-time headlining starters, including the Dowler twins and Paul Brott as well. Neil Daly, also one of those guys. Braden Zimmer, the left tackle, an outstanding player. So there's been a ton of talent that's come out of there. Rob Stanton's had a big hand in that. We'll start with Caden, and then we'll talk to Taco. Here is Caden Dowler on Rob Stanton.
You see it all around. You see it at this school. A lot of guys playing that played for Billings West, and that means they're doing something right there. And it was from him down. He was really the one who put everything in motion from the time we get there as freshmen. You know, we're lifting at 6 a.m. and we're lifting at 6 a.m. through the time we're seniors leaving for here. He does a really good job, kind of similar to here, empowering leaders to lead the team. And he's not necessarily a guy that's going to get up in front of everyone and rip on someone, but he really empowers his leadership and his captains on his teams to really be vocal. And I think that honestly helped me when I got here. So
appreciate Caden Dowler. Here is Taco Dowler on Rob Stanton.
Yeah, Coach Stanton's an amazing man, first off. Caden spoke to it really well, so it's hard to find a bunch of words, but trusted his leaders, like Caden said, and taught us a lot about the game of football. So we kind of came in with a head start, I felt like, at least with diagnosing coverages and stuff like that. He had a really good staff there at West High. And he does good at relationships, too. He just does the right things and played a big role in us getting here to Montana State, obviously, and having a lot of good Golden Bear football players on Montana State and impact players for Montana State. So the pipeline is there, and our coaches here continue to do a good job of recruiting Billings West because they continue to be good in high school, and that's because of him. So happy for him. He's awesome and one of the greatest men that I've ever been around. So I'm really happy for him.
Plenty of commentary and conversation about Billings West coming up in our preview with Pete Hamill from Vertical Rays. He will be giving away a Vertical Rays Class AA Player of the Week each week here on Nuanez now. But there's no games yet, not till Thursday. So we decided to just do an overall preview conversation. So Pete sat down with us a little bit for about 20 minutes. So looking forward to that. That's coming up here about 5:15. Maybe 5:20 here on Nuanez Now. But for right now, I'd like to do our most recent Treasure City Stars. Treasure City Stars, probably presented by Parkside Credit Union. Parkside Credit Union, a great place in western Montana to get a loan because Parkside Credit Union loves to say yes. What we're highlighting here today in Treasure City Stars, this will almost always be individual performances from around the state of Montana. Well, the only sports team that's really going right now at the college level is Grizz Soccer. And they're off to an 0-3 start, and they haven't scored a goal yet. So, hard to really highlight anybody there so far early on in the Stuart Gore era. The Grizz volleyball team had an exhibition against Carroll College last night, but I mean, there's not much to highlight there. And then, of course, football. High school football starts on Thursday. College football starts on Saturday. There's some cross-country stuff coming up this weekend as well. Volleyball, all of it's getting underway, but there's nothing to actually individually highlight. Baseball's over. You know, Catherine Burkhoff swam last week. We talked about her, the Missoula native, who's an Olympian. But in terms of right now and the here and now, there's not much. So a little bit different. This will almost always be that style, but for right now, I want to highlight some of the guys I'm excited to watch this weekend who will be either playing in elevator roles or making their debuts or both for the 2 Montana Division I teams. So basically, we're going to go back and forth. Grizz Cats, Grizz Cats, Grizz Cats, and see where we can get to. We'll start with the Grizz. I thought that Landon Ransom Goals looked like one of the standout players of fall camp. The moment that I stepped foot on campus there at, I guess the Door Blazer Field right off at the University of Montana campus. He's a transfer from Rice. I think he's smooth. I think he's got great ball skills. I think he runs good routes. I know the coaching staff is very high on him as well. But I want to see it in a game. You know, dicing up practice is one thing, and that's a good place to start, but I want to see it in a game. So he's certainly, I think, the guy that could be the biggest impact newcomer for the Grizz. But we got to wait till we see him again in real game action before that plays out. On the Bobcat side of things, there's a variety of guys that are sort of in the same vein. Number one, though, is Josiah Oswega. He is a sophomore defensive tackle. He comes from South Kitsap, which is a powerhouse football program in Western Washington. He put on like 30 pounds this last year to get up over 300, and I think he's going to be a key cog there on the interior. Montana State knows what they have in Talon Marsh. I think he's a pretty proven commodity. I think that Zach Black has a chance to have a breakout senior year. He's a talented guy that's played quite a bit of football for the Cats. But Oswega is one of those guys that could be like a rare talent. He looks like an FBS body type to me. He was really dominant during the spring game, and that's going against one of the best offensive lines in the country. So I think that all those things point towards him being a really talented guy. But again, we haven't really seen much on the field, so I want to see how he translates. Back to the Grizz. Dylan Drummond, I think, is another impact transfer guy to UNLV. He's got massive size, and that's a good place to start on the offensive line. He'll be anchoring one of the 2 guard spots. Lucas Freitas will be anchoring the other guard spot, and those guys will be flanking Dylan Jemtgaard at center. I think that's going to be your starting interior offensive line. Then I think you'll have Torin Jeske at left tackle for the Grizz and Austin Beeler at right tackle. I haven't gone to practice since last Wednesday, so about a week. So, if there's some reshuffling or maybe some guy got dinged up, I don't know. I cannot proclaim to know any of that. But that's just what I saw the starting unit as being. But I think Drummond is probably the guy that has besides Freitas, the best size amongst those players. And I also think he's got the best pedigree, and I think he looks like one of the most talented guys. So can he be a hog molly that they need on the interior offensive line? Montana State, excited to watch Parker Mady. He was a standout in the spring game. He caught a whole bunch of passes. He also threw a touchdown. Looked like he had great ball skills all the way around at wide receiver. And then in the only fall camp scrimmage that Montana State had, he tore it up. He caught 4 passes for over 100 yards. And I think he's a guy that they're going to have to figure out a way to find a role for him. That's sort of the story at receiver because they have Taco Dowler, they have Dane Steele. Those guys are proven. Jordan Reed is a guy that's received a ton of talking, a ton of conversation after switching from quarterback, and he's a big-bodied, tall wide receiver. And then you also have Jabez Woods, who had a breakout freshman year a year ago. So that if you're adding Mady into the mix and maybe even Max Kelly into the mix, that's a lot of dudes. That's a lot. I mean, Justin Lamson said in the press conference on Monday, Montana State's quarterback, that he thinks that they have 6 dudes that they can certainly trust at the wide receiver position. And if that's true, that's good, but you also have to figure out a way to get all those guys the ball and keep them happy. When you also got, Adam Jones and Jared White and Colson Kuhn in the backfield, and also you got all these great tight ends. It's just a lot of guys to keep happy. So how does Montana State go about keeping them happy? That is certainly going to be a key storyline. It's our Treasure State Stars. It's probably presented by Parkside Credit Union. Parkside Credit Union is a great place in western Montana to get a loan because Parkside Credit Union loves to say yes. Back to the Grizz. Tyler King. He looks the part all day long. He's a transfer from Central Washington. He's a defensive end. He's 6'5", 250, and he looks like he's got good range. I think it looks like he's got good strength. Again, another one where he's played at the D2 level. And he's a dominant player at D2. How does he translate to D1? How does he deal when the bullets are live? How is he going to deal with a Southern Utah offensive line that's going to be a formidable challenge for the Grizz. I think those are all question marks that still remain to be answered, but I think it's going to be fun and exciting to break it all down. On the Bobcat side of things, Xavier Aarons, as again I've talked about on this show quite a bit. Brent Deegan talked about him as well. He showed massive flashes all season long last year. He's a guy that in a normal year probably would have redshirted, but he needed to play right away, both because of his talent and because Neil Daly went down at inside linebacker. So Aarons was sort of the Bryce Grebe and Cole Taylor anchored it, and then Aarons was kind of the third guy. With Daly back, he's going to be like the fourth guy, unless he can earn and beat out any of those other three headlining guys in Grebe, Daly, and Taylor. I think Aarons is an FBS talent type of guy all the way. I mean, he looks like a different sort of player to me. I think that he is he's 6'3", 230 pounds. He runs really well. Jody Owens, the linebackers coach at Montana State, has talked extensively about both his skill but also his potential. And I think he's got a massive future ahead of him. And I think they're going to have to figure out a way to get him on the field. Grizz, Sage Solopek. He was a highly recruited player out of Western Washington, the Seattle area. And last year, Montana had all sorts of injuries at corner, including Keon Loud, DeAndre Gentry. And they played young guys at corner. They played Gentry before he got hurt. They played the Beaner twins. But Solopek was the one guy who didn't play that much, even though he was a highly regarded recruit. Well, he's been mostly running with the ones at cornerback this fall camp, and I think he's a guy that could be a splash impact player. So they're going to need him to emerge. They're going to want him to emerge, but I think he can emerge. On the we'll do one more on the Grizz side of things and one more on the Bobcat side of things. Bobcats, Carter Dahlke. He's a well-known player if you follow this show and you follow high school football around the state of Montana. He was a great player at Bozeman Gallatin, a 4-year contributor, and then he graduated early from Gallatin so he could join the Cats for spring ball. That's going to accelerate his development big time. He's a true freshman this year. There's a lot of people that say he reminds them very much of some of these other great slot receivers that have come out of Montana recently. Guys like Junior Bergen, who played for the Grizz, Jesse Owens, who played for the Grizz before going on to play basketball at Rocky Mountain College, guys like Gabe Sulcer, guys like Taco Dowler. I think that Dahlke is sort of in the mold of all of those guys, and I think it's going to be hard to keep him off the field. But again, they just have a lot of receivers there at Montana State, which is sort of interesting to think, given how run-heavy they've been over the last 10 years. And the last guy for the Grizz that I can't wait to see is Reese Brooks, and we'll have Reese on this show here later on this week. He's a tight end transfer from Cal Poly. I think he definitely showed flashes during spring ball as well as during this last fall camp, and I think he's a guy that could be a big impact player. A little bit different of a style of Treasure State Stars here on Nuanez Now, but we don't have a lot of individual performances to highlight, so that's the reason we're doing it like that. And next week we'll have performances to highlight, so we'll go back to the normal. But we appreciate our friends at Parkside Credit Union for their support of Treasure State Stars. Treasure State Stars is probably presented by Parkside Credit Union, which is a great place in western Montana to get a loan because Parkside Credit Union loves to say yes. Take a break, come back, keep on talking Southern Utah in Missoula and Montana State at Utah Tech. We'll hear from Bobby Kennedy and Brent Vegan. That's next to JJ Dow. Keep it right here, 129 ESPN Radio. Welcome back. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, talking all things high school football. And there's some fun storylines in Class AA, and we are proud to reintroduce one of our favorite segments. Peter Hamill in studio with me. He's from Vertical Raise. They're doing an awesome job of raising money all across the state of Montana. We will be giving away a Vertical Raise Player of the Week each week here on Nuanez Now. Obviously, we don't have one this week because there's no games until Thursday, but we will have Players of the Week as soon as games begin. So what's up, man?
Yeah, we're back.
We're back, baby.
I'm so excited. Easily one of my most favorite things of the year. I love coming in here. I love chatting with you about football, and it is so nice to have it back on the horizon.
Yeah, interesting, too, because here's where I want to start. Well, first of all, I want to start with all the great stuff that Vertical Raise has been doing. You've been all over the place. You had some perils in Hawaii because you were there when the hurricane. If you haven't heard about this, there's a big hurricane that hit Hawaii, and this has been all sorts of bad stuff for the people of Hawaii, and you were sort of there in the eye of the storm. But you've had a great time in Montana with helping people raise some money, so take us through your summer.
Oh man, well my summer ends early because I gotta be in Hawaii usually the very start of August, and we launched a bunch of fundraisers out there. Hawaii's a really great client, and there's just a lot of need out there because if you qualify for a state tournament, you're not putting your team on a bus. You're putting your team on a plane,
plane,
and
right.
you're putting them up in a hotel somewhere. And so things are really expensive, and parents were having to cover that. So we've kind of revolutionized what they do over there. But yeah, this was a tough trip, man. There was a hurricane. I was on the 26th floor of the hotel, and the wind blew 80 miles an hour for 6 hours. It made me think, like, man, those people in Florida, they're like, I'm just going to ride out this category, this category 4. That's crazy, because this was a category 1, and it was the most serious storm I have ever been through. So that was tough, and it canceled some stuff, and a lot of people had a really difficult time with it. The one thing I did that was incredible in Hawaii is I went to a football game, a high school football game between Mililani, which, if you don't know, that's like Dylan Gabriel and a bunch of pros came out of Mililani, really high-level program. Mililani played a team from Vegas called Liberty. And I'll just say it like this. I played high school football, or I played college football. And my first thought was 18-year-old me is not seeing the field in this game. They are 6'4", 320 across the board, and skill guys going to every Big Ten school you can think of. They had 3,000 people in the stands in the second quarter of the JV game.
It's pretty sweet.
The concessions are like plate lunch, like not a Snickers, like Chow Fun and plate lunches. Like, it is, if you have never been to a high-level high school football game in Hawaii, highly recommend. A whole different experience, and the talent level is off the boards, man.
Well,
like,
that's
they beat every team in Missoula by 100. No respect to any of the schools in Missoula. They are something else.
Yeah, I mean, every once in a while we get a Big 10 or Big 12 type player in Montana, but I mean, you're talking like
a field loaded with them.
I mean, there's like everybody on the field is going somewhere big. So tell us about the fundraising efforts in Montana.
Montana has gone exceptionally well. Yeah, Flathead football is way up. Sentinel football is way up. We started kind of doing things a little bit differently and have seen some pretty significant results. I think I've been back in Montana working for about a week, and we've already raised about $250,000. So a really necessary thing. I know a lot of times people get tired of having to fundraise for this or that, but the reality of it is that the DOE just does not fund their school programs the way they should, the way they used to. And I think that if we want to give the kids the kind of season that they deserve to have, this is a little bit of a necessary evil, but I know the kids are stoked. I got a new partnership with Up Top where all the kids are getting custom Up Top hoodies, which they love. It has been a great start, and we're off to a really good year, and I'm excited to keep it rolling. VerticalRaise406.com if you'd like to find out more about how Pete and his team can help you raise the most money, get the biggest checks for your high school sports organization. On the Up Top note, they are in the boat with us here at ESPN Radio as well for Grizz hockey coming up, and then we'll be having some Grizz hockey merchandise for sale down at Glacier Ice Rink and in other areas as well. That's going to be made by Up Top. So excited to have Luke and his team partners with us as well. So that's coming up with Grizz hockey season. We're still about a month away from Grizz hockey, but certainly that's going to be fun. Up Top makes great stuff.
They do, man.
I wear Up Top stuff. Shout out to Up Top for being super creative and super high quality stuff. They do a really great job.
Yeah, they do awesome. So our Vertical Raise AA Players of the Year last year, one, Jackson Presley, is now at Portland State.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to be interested to see if he wins that job, because you have to imagine. I mean, I can't imagine that Portland State has anybody that's that much better than Jackson Presley. If there is anybody, they better be way better, else you just go with the freshman. But then on the defensive side, it was Lane Humphrey from Billings West, who was our Player of the Year. He's back at Billings West, so we'll get to them in just a minute. But start with Presley. I mean, that's a huge void to fill for Grady Bennett and the Glacier Wolfpack, because he's a 3-year starter that threw for like 8,000 yards over the last 3 years.
I didn't get a chance to watch him practice. We ran our fundraiser in the auditorium, so I don't really know. If I'm guessing, it's a reload rather than rebuild situation with Grady. That they got a ton of kids up there. They got kids that are excited to be a part of the program. I think that they will probably be a great job. They got Brian Pelk's kid Cooper on the team, who's supposed to be a star. I ran into his mom the other day at the golf course. It was really nice to see Kelly. But yeah, I would presume that Glacier is a reload situation. I just don't know. The one thing that I will say of a team that I got to watch practice is Dane Oliver has a quarterback that can throw the ball this year, which is a change from where they have been in previous years.
Last couple of years they have not.
That'll be interesting to see how that evolves, how he's able to expand some things, because that kid was slinging it a little bit.
Yeah, the Tucker Lazlovich expected to be the guy there at Sentinel, and his dad was my basketball coach years and years ago. But I watched the Sentinel quarterbacks at Marty Morningweg's camp this summer. And I thought they actually have several guys in the program that are some of the younger guys were good too. So I think that they have a bright future there for sure. Glacier's been just in the playoffs, one of the best teams year in and year out. That's a great testament to Grady Bennett. But I do think it will be a little bit of a transition when you do have a guy that takes basically every snap for 30 plus games. It's big shoes to fill for sure. But I mean, I thought Cooper Pelk, for all of his football accolades and all of his, I mean, he plays all the sports. I thought his race at the state track meet this last year was one of the gutsiest and coolest races I've seen. The 110 high hurdles mark was one that stood for a really long time, and he shattered that thing, man.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he set the all-class state record. He was like the fourth seed in the race. There was multiple guys that were supposed to be better than him, and he beat all of them and broke the all-class state record in this race. It was pretty cool to see.
I mean, that's what the progeny of Grizz football players will do, right? Like, he's got that dog in him.
He does.
That's really cool to hear. I didn't know that. One thing that I'll say that sounds a little weird, but it rings true a lot. The teams I work with that really buy in and do a great job on their fundraising tend to be pretty good football teams.
Well, it's because it's part of a program, right?
It's part of a program, yes. And I think it goes to how you do one thing and is how you do everything.
No doubt.
And if we are using that metric, and it is no secret that Billings West is going to be tough, but if we're using that metric, watch out for Billings West.
Right.
Because with respect to numbers, I haven't seen anything like it since I've been in Montana this year. Like, those kids were bought in, dialed in, everybody on the same page, doing what they're supposed to do. And if they play football the way that they took that seriously, everybody's going to have a buzzsaw to deal with when they play Billings West.
Peter Hamill joining us here in studio for Vertical Raise. Visit verticalraise406.com to find out how they can help streamline your high school fundraising. We heard it from a couple Billings West alums earlier in the show, Taco Dowler, Caden Dowler, two of the best players in the country who both went to Billings West. I asked both of them about Rob Stanton because the news of the month this month has been that Rob Stanton is stepping away after the season at Billings West. He's going to take the head track and field coaching job at Dickinson State, which I think is an interesting deal, and I think that he'll do well there. He's a great track coach as well. But I wonder how much that impacts West, because they are a stacked team this year. They got Lane Humphrey coming back. He's our reigning Vertical Raise AA Defensive Player of the Year. They also have Walker Olson, who's a Grizz commit. They also have Jack Ryan, who's a Grizz commit. Humphrey obviously going to Montana State. So 3 D1 guys. They got, like you said, a bunch of guys out for football. They look like a well-oiled machine. I think it could go one of two ways with Stanton, right?
I agree. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. We can't predict which way it's going to go, but that is a factor, right? And there could be a let's win one for the Gipper type of mentality for Billings West.
If I'm guessing, that's the direction I would guess.
Yeah.
This is coach's last year. We're going to send them out with a bang, and they will be motivated, and they will be cohesive, and they, from what I have seen, they're going to do a pretty good job.
I think they got a big chip on their shoulder, too, because West has been better than everybody except for the team they've lost to in the state championship. I mean, they haven't won a state championship since 2018. They've been in the state title game 4 times since then, but they've lost in that state title game, including last year. So I think that's going to be a motivating factor, too.
Agree. I mean, you want to make predictions right now?
I don't know if we necessarily need to make predictions, but I do think that West is definitely the favorite. I think Glacier's right there, though, too, and I think the other contenders include – like Bozeman Gallatin's been knocking on the door. They've been in the semis for 3 years in a row, but they haven't quite been able to get over the top. That West has been sort of the one standing in their way. Obviously, a transition for Gallatin with the fact that they lose several of their best skill players, Carter Dahlke, Bobby Gootsman, both those guys go to the Cats. But I do think that they have a chance to be very competitive again this fall. And then I think you have to also look in Missoula. I think the fact that Sentinel has 25 seniors and a good quarterback and a great coach in Dane Oliver. And I also think Big Sky with the fact they have a D1 guy at quarterback and Eli Kasper, a D1 guy on the defensive line, and Quincy King. I think that Missoula has a chance to have a couple competitive teams this year as well.
I agree with all that. Let me give you a sleeper pick that's going to do better than I think a lot of people think they're going to do. The Flathead Braves.
Yeah, because Flathead has been down a little bit lately.
Flathead has been down. Flathead has a new coach. His name is Mac Roach. The culture at Flathead has done a 180-degree turn from where it was even 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Those kids are bought in. Those kids are lifting. Those kids are taking things seriously. They're showing up to the summer program. They have numbers out, like 80, 90 out. The The Flathead Braves are going to win a couple games, and I wouldn't be shocked to see them in the playoffs.
Mac Roach, for those that are listening on the Missoula airwaves, he was the athletic director at Loyola for a while. Played football at Carroll College, so he knows what it's all about. He knows what it takes to win. I think a lot of those guys that come from that old school Carroll model where they're playing for Mike Van Diest, like they had winning embedded and sort of in their souls as people. So I think that if you have that in your background, you have a chance to build a winning culture.
He's a leader.
Yeah.
He is a clear, effortless leader, and that is something that I think they have struggled to find up there for a little while. So they got a guy that's got him pointed in the right direction, and I think they will be better than many people think they will be.
Yeah, the other team that I'm up in the air about, but I lean toward thinking they're going to be good, is Butte, because Eric Gradis is just a good coach, and I think when he's got numbers, like if he gets enough guys out for football, and they have enough guys on their roster, he can mold it. He can figure out what to do. He also has his son playing quarterback, which I think in certain cases can be a weird scenario, but I think that Ari has done this in a way to make his son Raider be an extension of the coaching staff and a leader on the field too. So I'm interested in Butte. I think Butte could make some noise because they had a down year last year that then ended in an upswing. They won 2 in a row to make the playoffs, and then were competitive in the playoffs. So maybe they carry some momentum from last year into this year.
Ari's one of my favorite people, also an exceptional leader, and I think you're right. If he's got just enough talent and just enough numbers, that's a guy that's gonna make something of it.
Yeah. On the west side of things, we've done the offensive and defensive players of the year for a couple of years now. I don't think we've ever had a guy that was the reigning guy coming back. So that's an interesting fold for Lane Humphrey. You and I, when we were picking this, well, we kind of pulled
Jackson.
Yeah, well, right, yeah.
But on the defensive
side, I think it's been a senior every year until last year. Humphrey, though, it's funny because we both sort of text all the coaches that we know and say, give us your opinions on this. And then we sort of narrow it down and say, okay, who are the 3 guys everybody's talking about? And pretty much across the board, everybody said Lane Humphrey. And then we started watching the film. We're like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
He is a little undersized. Like, if you just watch the film and you just saw him, you'd be like, well, that guy's going to Texas, right? Like, that guy's going to Oregon or something. He's going to Montana State. He's a little bit undersized in terms of being an FBS prospect, but, I mean, he's a quick trigger, downhill, good tackler. So I'm excited to see if he takes another step, because if he does take another step,
we got to nickname him the Honey Badger.
I mean, he's totally, right? Like, he is an awesome player to watch, and if he takes another step, he's going to be the front runner for this award again.
How undersized is he?
Well, he's like 6'2", 205.
I mean, that's not that undersized.
That's not undersized. You're right. And it's funny to talk about undersized too. Like the kid's like 16 or 17 years old, right? Like he could be 230 like that as soon as he gets into a college weight training program or whatever. So I do think that it's going to be fun to watch and see how he progresses. I'm also so curious to see how sophisticated West can be defensively, just because when you do have 3 guys that are D1 caliber, and 2 of those guys, the 2 kids that are coming to the Grizz, they both have position versatility too. Like Jack Ryan, he can play safety, free safety, corner, nickel. Walker Olson, they've been playing him at safety, but now he's up to like 215 pounds. I think they had to put him in a linebacker spot too. That's what he'll play in college. But I think they could do a lot of sophisticated stuff defensively too.
Yeah, they're going to be super interesting to watch. A lot of love for the Billings West Bears on the show this day. We usually are pretty West focused, and today I think we both feel the same thing. Is if you're going to watch out for anybody, watch out for Billings West.
Yeah, West in the East, and the other teams in the East sort of remain a mystery to me. Great Falls High has been okay under Coda Cheetah, but they have one of the best talents in the state in Steele Harris, who's going to Wisconsin. How do they use him? How do they use that weapon to their advantage? When they had his brother Reed Harris, they put him at quarterback and sort of just said, do the Troy Anderson thing. We'll just run you all over the place and make plays. And that worked until it didn't. Then they had that game against Sentinel where Sentinel basically pitched a shutout. I think Great Falls High had 1 first down the whole game. So I don't know if you don't want to overuse a guy like Harris or not. But Great Falls is definitely a mystery to me. At some point, I just want to believe that CMR is going to be back to being competitive, but I just don't know. I don't know how or when that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think that football in Montana is better when CMR is relevant.
Oh, there's no question.
And I would I remember going to Carroll Camp when I was a kid, and the first big hit I ever took where I was like, oh, all right, welcome to football was I had green and yellow helmet or green and yellow paint on my helmet.
That's right.
Because they were those guys. You know who else maybe have something to prove, and I would be not surprised to see them bring it back a little bit, is Capital. Like,
yeah, totally.
What does Kyle have in the hopper?
And that's the thing is last year they wanted to build the whole thing around Drew Almquist, and then Almquist got hurt the second game of the year, and that was a huge factor into them just having a down year. But I totally agree with you. It's been 30-something years since Capital won 2 games, and they're just not going to do that 2 years in a row. It's way too proud of a program. Kyle Mahelish is too good of a coach, is too good of a staff. So, I think with Almquist back in the fold, and if you're arguing over who's like the best prospect in the state of Montana, we're naming some of them, but I mean I think that most people would tell you it's either Drew Almquist, who's going to the Grizz, or Steele Harris, who's going to Wisconsin. And I think having Almquist back gives him he's everything for him, man. He can play receiver, he can play slot, he can play in the return game, he can also play wildcat quarterback. I just think they're going to do a lot of stuff with him. Having him back in the fold and healthy will be huge for Capital.
Great. Montana football is also better when Capital is relevant.
And the other team you have to mention is Bozeman, because I know the Bozeman's had varying levels of the stars that they can put out, and certainly Gallatin's emergence and first existence and then emergence has impacted Bozeman for sure. But they've still always been a playoff team, and I think Levi West does a really good job there at Bozeman High too. So they have. I think that given that there is mystery around Billings Senior, Great Falls High, Great Falls CMR, you have to think that West, Gallatin, and then Bozeman High has to be right there as well.
I agree with that.
Those 3 teams.
I think Bozeman's on the come up for sure.
Yep. No, it's now 109 ESPN Radio. Peter Hamill will be joining us in studio each week, and we will have our AA Players of the Week each week. So quickly, here's the games for this upcoming week. Helena High is at Billings Skyview, and Bozeman is in Missoula to take on Hellgate. Those are both Thursday games. Billings West, Kalispell Glacier for a state championship rematch Friday night. That's up in Kalispell.
Oh, wow.
Big Sky plays in Billings against Senior. The Flathead Braves open up at the Great Falls High at Memorial Stadium Friday night. CMR versus Helena Capital. You give that to me 25 years ago, and that's one we're driving over to Helena to go watch probably. And then Belgrade plays in Missoula against Sentinel, and Butte plays in Bozeman against Gallatin. So some interesting matchups. A couple of those road trips, West going up to Glacier.
That's a haul.
That's a haul. Big Sky going to Senior. That's a haul. Flathead even coming down to Great Falls is a little bit of a trek too. So certainly the travels will be interesting. But I think the games that I'll have my eye on most keenly will be Big Sky in Billings, West Glacier obviously in the state championship rematch. And then I think Butte Gallatin is an interesting one too, because I think that even though Gallatin's got it rolling as a program, they got a lot of uncertainty. They're going to have a new quarterback, and I think, if anybody can spring a booby trap, it's Ari Gray going on the road.
God, I love Ari Gray.
He was so good here on the show last week. Pete will be with us each Tuesday here on Nuanez Now. Anything else you want to add about Vertical Rays?
I don't think so. This is a really, really, really busy time of year for me. So with respect to fall sports, if you want to do something, we're looking out into mid-September. We're going to start turning the tables towards winter sports before too long. But the biggest thing is if this is a platform that has had a lot of proven success and a lot of people have jumped on board because of it. And so my schedule is tight. If you want to fundraise with the company that's going to raise you the most money, call me early. Get on the schedule early, and we'll take care of you, and I'll give you the red carpet treatment. But if you call me in August, you're not getting the red carpet treatment because I got too many other things going on. So call early, get on the calendar, and would love to help and continue to elevate activities in this community.
VerticalRays406.com. Thanks, dude.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. Turn the page and tack some Grizz and some Bobcats. Got a couple teams from Utah on the slate. Southern Utah comes to Missoula, and Montana State goes down to St. George. We'll hear from Bobby Kennedy and Brent Began on the other side. Don't change that dial. Keep it right here. It's 129 ESPN Radio. Yo, appreciate you for hanging all afternoon long. Thanks so much for doing it. And if you like an extra fix, we have an extra one for you every morning at 8 a.m. now. So we have 2 drive time shows, 8 to 10, 2 till Nuanez, and then 4 to 6, Nuanez Now. Been fun, and we'll keep on rolling. Coming up, we're going to hear, I was going to play Bobcat and Grizz sound, but we only have time for Grizz sound. So we'll hear from Bobby Kennedy, head coach of the Grizz. To wrap things up here, here's just couple minutes worth of his thoughts on Southern Utah.
Looking forward to Southern Utah. Obviously, we're excited to open up the season in Washington Grizzly Stadium against a really good opponent. Opponent that's back in our league, that's had really good success in the past. I know Coach Fitzgerald has done a great job with that program. A couple years ago, they beat UTEP, an FBS opponent. They finished really strong last year, so it'll be a good test for us, and we're excited about that test.
Coach, we're like 5 days away from you head coaching your first football game. When you think about that, how's that feel? Yeah, how do you feel you're doing all that good stuff? Yeah, excited. I mean, obviously, a million things when you're new in this role goes through your mind, but I'm really comfortable with our staff and comfortable with our players. I feel like we have a great staff and guys that have been through a bunch of battles before, but also our players. The two guys sitting next to me are veteran players that were elected captain. We don't have Solo here today, but I know he's going to make an appearance sometime. He's so big that we can, it would be me and him, so that would take up this whole table. But yeah, it's going to be surreal for me. But also, I'm gonna enjoy the moment, and I've been preparing for this for a long time. Didn't know if it was ever gonna come, but thanks to Ken Haslam and our athletic department and Clay Christian and our new president, they thought I was the guy to lead this team. So looking forward to it. It's not about me; it's about Montana. It's about our team. But I would be remiss if I didn't say that the guys from spring ball really. Since I was named head coach, then through spring ball, obviously we didn't have a guy that jumped in the portal. They showed great confidence in this program and in our staff. And I think we're all excited. We're all excited to, like Kaylee said, the hard work that these guys put in, I really admire them for it because they've been a great group and we have good leadership on this team. I've said this before, our success will be determined on how we continue to come together, how we bond as a team, how we look out for each other as a team, and these guys have done that thus far. So it's really exciting for me, and really an honor to coach these guys because we have great young men in this program.
Coach, we're kind of looking at Delane Fitzgerald's teams at Southern Utah. It seems like they can run the ball really well offensively. They've found some success the last few years. What's it like, I guess, game planning for a team that has proven to have consistently good guys who run the ball and seem to have a lot of success in that realm? Yeah, I mean, that's one of the points. Like Southern Utah, they have been known to run the ball not only with the running backs, but with their quarterback, right? And so that's our charge, to hopefully stop that rushing attack. But until you get in it, right, you don't know how things are going to go. But I have confidence in our defense. I have confidence in Eric Sanders. But no, they've been an excellent team running the football. They're inside-outside zone. Then also their quarterback runs. They're tough to defend. And then they'll do some play action and try to hit you over the top. And so we've got to have good eyes. Got to read our keys. Got to be stout up front. But like I said, we're not a finished product, but I like where we are, and it's going to be a great test. Coach Fitzgerald, he's a heck of a coach. You look at what he's done in the past, not only at Southern Utah, but also, the places that he's been before. Like, he's been known to be a program builder, and he's done a great job.
Coach, I'm curious just again about preparation for the game. I've always felt week one in college football is a very unique challenge, even with a coach who's been there 5 years like Coach Fitzgerald. You can dig into that, but how much leeway is there in your prep for this particular week, and do you have a plan B, plan C, and alternatives that you can go to if needed? Yeah, what you have to do, I think, in game planning, part of the thing with NIL, right? There's this infusion of new players, and if they're like most good coaches, which I know they are, they're going to have new wrinkles, right? So hopefully you've prepared well enough through film study that you can adjust to maybe some of the wrinkles that they throw at you. But also, like I said before, I'm really confident in our staff. Our staff has always done a great job of making game adjustments, especially on the offensive side. Now we have a new defensive staff, right? But I've got great confidence in Eric Sanders and his staff that he's going to be able to make those adjustments. And
The great thing about the people that we have surrounding us, not only the players but also the coaches, is that they've got a bunch of games under their belts. Maybe not here, but at other places. And there's a reason why they're at Montana, is because they're good coaches and that they can make those adjustments.
Thanks, Bobby Kennedy, for joining us. We will have Bobby Kennedy one-on-one on this show. I guess two-on-one. Me and Ryan Tutel will interview him each week for Tutel Nuanez. So very much looking forward to that. And we'll also have excerpts of that here on Nuanez Now as well. So looking forward to having both Bobby Kennedy and Brent Vigen here on your favorite daily sports talk show. If you're missing the show, fun and jam-packed show, Samuel and Kim, Inside the FCS, we talked everything from national title contenders to Big Sky Conference opening slate of games to a preview on the game in Missoula between Montana and Southern Utah. That was all just in hour number one. We also heard from Taco and Caden Dowler all about Billings West and the resignation, retirement from that post of head coach from Rob Stanton. And we also gave our latest Treasure State Stars, some of the individuals I can't wait to see for both the Grizz and the Bobcats headed into Saturday's openers. And we also heard from Pete Hamill, our vertical raised Class AA Player of the Week, and Bobby Kennedy, of course, as well here too. All of it on the Nuanez Now podcast, which is available on all your various different podcast hosting platforms. Please rate, review, subscribe. It's presented in part by Rhino Fireplaces. Rhino Fireplaces has been installing and repairing fireplaces around western Montana for more than 20 years. They are now available to do sales and repairs in Kalispell, in Helena, and in Great Falls. So if you need anything with your fireplace, Rhino Fireplaces is your go-to, and they are proud to present the Nuanez Now podcast all football season long. Check in tomorrow at 8 a.m. with Ryan Tutel, and be sure to check out with us tomorrow afternoon, Sam Herder, Hero Sports, our Grizz Star of the Week, and much more. In the meantime, though, don't change that dial. Appreciate you for listening. This is 102.9 ESPN Radio, Nuanez Now.